Hey everyone, I'm Colleen with Awaken Catholic, and this is Awaken the Saint. Each of us is called to go and preach to all nations, and today's saint took that mission to heart. St. Francis Xavier was born in 1506 at the castle of Xavier in Navarre, a kingdom in northern Spain. The third son born of Spanish nobility, his future seemed to be chosen for him. In 1526, he was sent to the University of Paris to begin his ecclesiastical studies. He acquired a reputation as an athlete and had aspirations for worldly acclaim. All of this changed when 3 years later a new roommate was assigned to him by the name of Ignatius of Loyola. Being 15 years older and a seasoned soldier, Ignatius had already undergone his own spiritual conversion and was looking for like-minded men who shared his ideals. Francis was initially reluctant to listen to Ignatius, but eventually he was won over and became one of the 7 who in 1534 made vows of poverty and celibacy, becoming the first members of the Society of Jesus. They promised to devote themselves to the salvation of believers and non-believers alike. Francis then applied himself to the 30-day spiritual exercises devised by Ignatius to guide himself toward greater generosity and service to God and mankind. This became a practice that influenced the rest of his life. In 1537, he was ordained a priest, and 3 years later found himself being sent on mission to India. The first 3 years of his time were spent along the southern coast with the Pauravas, who were simple poor pearl fishermen. Living among them, he instructed them in the faith through an interpreter, winning many over with his conviction and sincere heart. Then he felt his call to Malaysia, founding missions among the Malays and headhunters in the Spice Islands. Called back to India, he spent another period of time in Goa at the College of Holy Faith, developing a program for native priests and catechists of that diocese. But his interest now turned to another island, which had only recently been visited by Europeans for the first time: Japan. Traveling with a Japanese man whom he had converted in Malaysia, Xavier entered Japan in 1549. He learned enough language to get by, but discovered that the people were repulsed by his evangelical poverty, a practice that had won many over to the faith in Europe and India. So he changed his approach. Xavier adopted a studied, regal appearance while in Japan to reach a culture which prized poise and class. Xavier had a dream of evangelizing in China, but on his way he fell sick with fever and died in 1552. The patron of all missions, he is credited with advocating that missionaries should adapt to the culture and language of those they seek to evangelize. He also advocated for having educated native clergy. He worked to ensure that communities who had been baptized were not left to themselves but received continual pastoral care. The areas he ministered to in India remain Catholic to this day. All of us are called to spread the gospel to all people. It may not look like traveling to distant lands, but we are meant to evangelize in our own spheres of influence. Like Francis Xavier, we should lovingly and wisely adapt ourselves to the needs of those around us. St. Francis Xavier, pray for us.